Ever tell your kids something and they act like you never said it, but then a random YouTuber says the exact same thing and suddenly it's gospel? Noted. Next time I'll say it while eating 100 hot dogs with Mr. Beast for 10K. It's not that your kid doesn't hear you. It's that their brain has learned not to. Because here's the truth no one tells you. The more familiar your voice becomes, the easier it is to tune it out. That doesn't just hurt your feelings, it rewires connection. And if it goes unchecked, your voice becomes background noise. In this video, I'll show you exactly why your child listens to strangers more than you, and how to reclaim your voice in a way they actually hear and trust. The familiarity filter. Let's be honest, you could read War and Peace out loud while your kid is nose deep in Minecraft and they wouldn't flinch. But the second a random YouTuber repeats what you've been saying for months, suddenly it's genius. Whoa, did you know that broccoli actually helps your brain? Yes, I did. I said that yesterday while handing you broccoli. But here's the thing, this isn't your kid being rude or ungrateful or allergic to parental wisdom. It's actually psychology. Your voice is home. Your voice is the soundtrack to their life. It's the score behind breakfast, school drop-off, spilled juice, piano practice, reminders, corrections, lost shoes, and 83 variations of I said put your pants on, including one in a British accent, because you were hoping the Queen's English might finally work. It's warm, it's constant, it's familiar, and that's exactly why they tune it out. There's a term for this. It's called the familiarity filter, and it's the brain's way of deprioritizing anything that's always there. Kind of like your fridge hum, or the ceiling fan, or that one light switch that never actually turns anything on. Your brain says, this again? Got it. Background noise. Unfortunately, this filter applies to people too. And guess who's on top of the always available list? You. So when your child zones out while you give the same advice for the 12th time, it's not rebellion, it's biology. You've been mentally filed under seen it, heard it. What's on TikTok? Is it annoying? Yes. But is it fixable? Also yes. The first step is not blaming yourself or them. The second step is learning how to disrupt the filter. We'll get to that. But first, the stranger advantage. Let's talk about that stranger, the teacher, the coach, the neighbor with a golden doodle. Why do their words land harder than yours? Basically, when a stranger gives advice, it lands clean. No history, no resentment, no sighs or eye rolls. They're not already associated with stress or chores or yelling through the bathroom door like a hostage negotiator. That clean slate makes their words stickier, more memorable, more influential. Also, strangers typically interact with your kid when they're calm, not while they're rushing out the door with one shoe or melting down because the chicken nugget is broken. On the other hand, you're in the trenches. You see every emotion, every mess, every meltdown, which means your words get tangled in the chaos. A stranger's words arrive wrapped in calm. Let's just pause and say it out loud. Yes, this is annoying. You give them your entire soul, and they quote some random PE teacher like it's the sacred truth. You give them your entire soul, and they quote Coach Greg, who wears socks with sandals and says epic unironically. But is it fixable? Absolutely. It starts with understanding the familiarity filter and realizing it's not personal, it's neurological, and honestly, kind of predictable. Now, I'm not saying outsource your parenting to the UPS guy, but if your message isn't landing, it might be time to think about how you're delivering it, not just what you're saying. Because the goal isn't to compete with the stranger. It's to borrow their advantages and bring your message back to life. By the way, if this is already making you rethink your whole approach to parenting, hit that subscribe button, because we make videos that help you reconnect without the yelling, guilt, or guesswork. Cool? Cool. Let's keep going, because the way we say things might matter more than what we say. The power of voice tone. Here's a hard truth no one really wants to say out loud. We talk to our kids in a tone we'd never use with another adult. Not because we're mean, not because we don't love them, but because we're tired and late and asking for the same dang thing for the 6th time before 8 a.m. So the tone, it starts to shift. It gets tighter, sharper, flat with frustration. And while you might think you're being polite, your kid's nervous system might be hearing something else entirely. Please put your shoes on. Sounds fine, right? Except if your voice is tense and clipped and you're low-key vibrating with cortisol, that please still hits like, why must you destroy me every morning? Because here's what no one tells you. Your child doesn't just hear what you say. They feel how you say it. Their brain is wired for survival. It's scanning for threat, tone, volume, vibe, constantly. So when your tone sounds even mildly stressed, disappointed, or commanding, their brain might log that as a threat. Not consciously, but biologically. And guess what happens when a human feels threatened? They don't comply, they defend. They freeze, avoid, shut down, snap back, or go full spaghetti noodle body in the hallway. And here's a little experiment that'll humble you real quick. Record yourself next time you give a basic instruction. Now, imagine your boss saying that same thing to you in that tone. Would you listen calmly, or would you start plotting your escape? One is the difference between a gentle request and a demonic exorcism in yoga pants. Tone matters a lot. Not because your kid's too sensitive, but because your tone is information. And when your child hears stress in your voice, they assume they've done something wrong or that you're not safe to connect with in that moment. That's why even a polite sentence can trigger defiance. Because your words say please, but your tone says, I'm losing it and you're the problem. And to a child's brain, that feels like danger. They're not ignoring you. They're protecting themselves. When your kid ignores you, what's actually happening is this. They're going into self-protection mode. Maybe they're overstimulated. Maybe they feel like they can't win. Maybe they already know what's coming, and they're emotionally bracing. It's like when you know your boss is about to criticize you and you start mentally checking out. Kids do that too. They don't shut down to be disrespectful. They shut down to survive the moment without going nuclear. This isn't about obedience. This is about regulation. And regulation starts with safety. If your kid feels like every interaction is a test they can fail, they'll stop showing up. And then they'll listen to anyone who doesn't make them feel that way. What actually builds connection? All right, now that we've aired out the pain points, let's talk about what works. You want your child to listen? Flip the script. Before giving instruction, create connection. Not a long emotional speech, just presence. Look them in the eye, kneel down to their level, say their name, and wait. I know, it's wildly inefficient, but that extra 5 seconds you spend connecting saves you from the 15-minute argument that follows when you skip it. Also, be interesting. I don't mean circus clown interesting. I mean curious, engaging, less robotic. Instead of go brush your teeth, try, want to see if your toothbrush can beat mine in a race? Yes, it's cheesy. Yes, it works. Because kids respond to invitations better than instruction. The goal isn't control. The goal is cooperation. Repair is greater than perfection. Let's be brutally honest for a second. You're going to mess up. You're going to yell when you mean to stay calm. You're going to overreact to something small. You're going to say things like, because I said so, and immediately cringe inside your soul. Welcome to parenting, where the hours are long, the stakes feel high, and the coworkers are tiny and emotionally volatile. But here's the truth nobody prints in the baby books. The goal isn't perfection, it's repair. Because the trick isn't never messing up. It's what you do after the mess up that actually shapes your kid's emotional foundation. Picture this. You snapped at your kid. Again. You were late, your brain was on fire, and they spilled something for the 3rd time before breakfast. Old script. Just go get your shoes on now. New script. Try this. Hey, I was frustrated, but I shouldn't have snapped at you like that. That wasn't fair. Let's try again. That one sentence, it doesn't just soften the moment. It rewires something. Because what your kid hears isn't an apology. They hear, I can be safe with you, even when things get hard. That's what repair does. It teaches them that relationships don't fall apart when someone screws up. They bend, stretch, heal. It teaches them that feelings are safe to name and that mistakes don't end connection. They create opportunities for it. And maybe most powerful of all, when you own your mistakes without shame or ego, you give them a model of emotional responsibility. You teach them how to apologize, how to reconnect, how to come back after conflict. And suddenly, you're not just the parent they have to listen to, you're the person they want to listen to. Not because of rules, but because of trust. Because your voice doesn't just say, I'm in charge. It says, I'm human, and I still choose to show up for you. That's what they'll remember. Not the mistake, not the yelling, the coming back. When they tune out, tune in. When your kid's ignoring you, that's your invitation to notice something. What's going on in them? What's going on in you? Are you both hungry? Exhausted? Is this the third decision you've asked them to make in 2 minutes? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Just sit next to them. Let the silence do the work. Because the goal isn't just for them to listen. It's for them to feel listened to, too. The stranger becomes you. When you shift from barking orders to building connection, when you prioritize safety over control, when you repair instead of repeat, you become the stranger they used to listen to. Because now you're not just mom or dad or the person who reminds me to put on socks. You're someone they actually want to hear from. And no, you don't need to eat 100 hot dogs to earn that. And that's everything. If this resonated with you, first, take a breath. You're doing the hardest job in the world with no real manual and lots of background noise. But you're here. You're learning. You care. That already makes you someone your kid can count on. Smash that subscribe button like your kid smashes snacks 5 minutes before dinner. You'll thank yourself later.